The vibe shifts.
The temperature in the room just drops.
It does. The air pressure changes. Someone leans in. They lower their voice just a little. It's not quite a whisper.
No, it's a frequency. It signals explosivity.
And they say those four really dangerous words. Did you hear about?
And that is a universal trigger. I mean, immediately your brain it perches on the edge of its seat.
Yeah.
There's a real physiological rush of adrenaline, logically, that you probably shouldn't listen.
It's none of your business.
Right. But there's this conflict raging inside you because you don't want to be the only person who doesn't know. You don't want to be the outsider.
It's magnetic. But then if you look around the room, there's often one other person in this scene. The one who stays quiet, they don't lean in, they don't ask for the details. In fact, they might even politely change the subject.
And this is where our perception so often fails us. Because society usually labels that person as boring.
No fun.
Right, no fun, or maybe just socially awkward. But psychology suggests something entirely different. That person is actually the most dangerous and ultimately the most respected person in the room.
And that is the twist we are exploring today. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're stepping into the Growth Lab to analyze a really fascinating piece of content from The Simple Nerd.
We're unpacking the silent power of people who just never gossip.
It's such a compelling topic because it really does challenge a very, very basic human instinct.
It does. So we're going to look at why we are so obsessed with talking behind people's backs and, more importantly, what psychological superpower is possessed by the person who refuses to do it.
We've got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to touch on some evolutionary biology, the monkey connection, as the source calls it.
We'll also get into the oxytocin trap.
And we'll break down a strategy called gray rocking. But let's start with the basics. The source material mentions that 90% of the world participates in gossip. 90%. That's a staggering number.
It is.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense when you look at our history. To really understand the non-gossiper, you first have to understand the 90%.
Okay.
And that means looking at the work of an evolutionary psychologist named Robin Dunbar. He famously argued that gossip is essentially the human equivalent of primate grooming.
Right, the image of monkeys picking bugs off each other.
Precisely. Monkeys do that not just for hygiene, but to build trust, to build social bonds. It's a very physical way of saying, I've got your back.
Okay, so how does that translate to humans?
Well, humans evolved language. So we replaced the physical grooming with talking. We share information to build that same sense of trust and community.
So for our ancestors, knowing who was, sleeping with whom or who was hoarding food, that wasn't just idle tea, as we'd call it now.
No, not at all. It was survival data.
It was life or death.
Absolutely.
Yep.
If you didn't gossip, you didn't have information. If you didn't have information, you were an outsider. And in a tribe of early humans, being an outsider
meant you probably wouldn't survive.
Exactly. So this impulse, this need to lean in when someone whispers, it's hardwired into our survival brain. It's a feature, not a bug, of our evolution.
But here's the catch, and the source makes this point so well. Just because something is natural, that doesn't mean it's healthy.
No. And the analogy they use is perfect. It's junk food.
Junk food for the brain.
That's it. For the modern brain, gossip is exactly like junk food. When you consume it, it feels great for about 5 minutes. It's highly palatable. But afterward,
you feel gross, heavy.
You feel heavy and a little bit sick.
So let's unpack that. Why does it feel so good in the moment? And then why does it turn sour? This brings us to what the source calls the oxytocin trap.
Right. This is where the chemistry comes in. When you're gossiping with someone, your brain releases oxytocin.
The bonding hormone.
The bonding hormone.
Yeah.
The same chemical released during, physical intimacy or when a mother bonds with her child. It creates this powerful rush of closeness.
So you're whispering with a coworker about Sarah from accounting, and you feel this wave of, wow, we're so close. We really get each other because we both think Sarah's annoying.
Exactly. But psychologists have a very specific term for this. Negative bonding. It creates a fake sense of intimacy. It feels real. It feels like a deep connection, but it's incredibly fragile.
Why is it fragile? I mean, if you're bonding over a shared dislike, isn't that still a bond?
Well, it's a bond built on sand. Because deep down, underneath that oxytocin rush, both people realize something, something terrifying. There's a subconscious thought process happening. And it goes like this. If this person is willing to talk about Sarah with me, they are definitely willing to talk about me with Sarah.
Ah, that's the cold shower moment. The realization that you aren't actually safe.
At all. Gossip doesn't build trust, it builds a truce.
A truth.
Yes. The unwritten rule of a gossip circle is that you are only safe as long as you are in the room. The moment you leave, you become the next topic on the menu.
That is a chilling way to put it. It's a truce, not a friendship. Okay, so let's pivot. Let's talk about the hero of our story today.
The silent observer.
The one who doesn't play this game. What is happening in their head that lets them resist that chemical hit of oxytocin?
This is where we get into some really interesting personality psychology. The source suggests that these individuals often possess what's called a high internal locus of control.
Internal locus of control. Okay, let's break that down for everyone listening. What does that actually mean in practice?
It basically refers to where you believe the power in your life resides. So if you have an external locus of control, you rely on outside forces, other people's opinions, luck, circumstances, to feel validated.
Okay.
But if you have an internal locus of control, your validation comes from within. These non-gossipers, they don't look to the group to tell them they're important. They don't need that cheap thrill of a shared secret to feel a sense of status.
So while the average person might use gossip to feel above someone else, sort of lowering someone else's status to raise their own,
Right.
the non-gossiper is already secure. They don't need to climb that ladder.
Precisely. They've already realized a fundamental truth. Talking about someone else's failures does not make them more successful. It's a zero-sum game they simply refuse to play.
And there's another layer to it, right? Something called cognitive empathy.
Yes, and this is arguably even more powerful, cognitive empathy. Well, it's a superpower in its own right.
How does it work?
When the average person hears a juicy rumor, their brain focuses on the drama, the scandal, the entertainment value. The non-gossiper's brain works differently. It skips right past the drama and asks a critical question. I wonder what that person is actually going through.
Wow, that completely reframes the entire situation.
It does. Because it's very hard to laugh at a rumor or judge a scandal when you're busy imagining the pain of the person involved. If you're visualizing the human struggle behind the tea, the entertainment value, it just evaporates. It evokes nausea, not excitement.
That is a profound shift in perspective, moving from just being a spectator to being a fellow human being.
Exactly.
Now, beyond the internal psychology, the source mentions a specific tactical strategy these people use. It's called the gray rock method.
Yes, gray rocking. It's a fantastic tool. It's often taught in therapy for dealing with narcissists or other toxic personalities, but it applies perfectly to gossipers.
And the ideas?
The idea is to become as uninteresting and unresponsive as a gray rock.
Someone comes to you with a piece of gossip. Did you hear what happened? And instead of gasping or asking what, you just exit.
You refuse to provide the fuel. Gossipers feed on reaction.
They need the drama.
They need the gasp, the shock, the validation.
Yeah.
If you respond with just a flat tone, a non-committal, oh really, or I hadn't heard that, and then you immediately turn back to your work or change the subject to something boring.
You cut off their fuel supply?
You cut it off. You become boring to them.
And that's the goal?
That is the entire goal. Eventually, the people who thrive on drama, they just stop coming to you. You create a kind of drama-free zone around your life. You aren't pulled into the office politics. You aren't drafted into family feuds. You preserve your peace.
But here's the paradox that I found so fascinating in the source material. It claims that by being this vault, by saying nothing, these people actually end up knowing the most. How does that work?
It is ironic, isn't it? The person who gossips the least often holds the most genuine information.
Why?
Because people realize they are a vault. If you are known as someone who never ever repeats what is told to them in confidence, you become the only person everyone feels safe talking to, genuinely talking to.
So the gossiper knows all the rumors, but the silent observer, they know the truth.
That is a very powerful distinction. And it leads us to the final and perhaps most important concept from the source, integrity as social currency.
Integrity is the rarest social currency in the world. I love that line.
It's a great line.
Let's talk about the ROI here, the return on investment of silence.
In the short term, the gossiper wins, no question. They're the life of the party, they have all the attention, they seem to control the room.
But life is a long game.
Exactly. In the long term, the non-gossiper becomes the leader.
Because of that data point you mentioned earlier.
Yes. When you witness someone refusing to speak ill of a person who isn't in the room, your brain records a critical piece of data about them. It's subconscious, but you think, this person is safe.
You realize your own reputation would be secure in their hands.
And that generates a level of trust that, well, you can't buy it. And you certainly can't get it by trading secrets.
No. And that trust translates into what? Loyal friends?
Loyal friends, stable careers, and maybe most importantly, a high level of internal peace. And just think about the mental load. The non-gossiper never has to worry about getting their story straight.
Right, they don't have to remember who knows what version of which lie.
They don't have stories to keep track of, they only have the truth. It's an incredibly efficient way to live.
That sounds incredibly liberating, to not have to manage that web of information, but just to exist with integrity.
It's the ultimate freedom, in a way.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Let's summarize the key takeaways for our listeners, because we covered a lot of psychological ground today.
We did. Let's hit the 5 main points.
Go for it.
1. Evolution. We are hardwired to groom each other for information. It's a survival instinct, but in the modern world, it can be maladaptive.
Right. It's junk food.
2. Oxytocin. Gossip is negative bonding. It feels like intimacy, but it's really a breach of trust that creates a fragile truce, not a friendship.
Okay, what's 3?
3. Locus of control. True security comes from within. The non-gossiper doesn't need external validation or to see others fail to feel good about themselves.
Number 4 was the strategy, the gray rock.
The gray rock. Being boring is actually a tactic. It protects you from toxicity, and it preserves your energy for what really matters.
And finally, number 5.
5. Integrity. Silence buys loyalty. Being a vault, being a safe harbor for people, that makes you a leader in the long run.
That is a powerful toolkit. So the next time someone leans in and says, "Did you hear?" Remember, you have a choice. You can take the dopamine hit the junk food option and join the huddle. Or you can take the silent path.
And it might feel lonely in that split second. You might feel that FOMO, that fear of missing out.
For sure.
But you are building a reputation that lasts much, much longer than any rumor ever could.
I think the source put it best with this final thought. The way we talk about others tells the world much more about us than it ever does about them.
Stay quiet.
Stay classy. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you in the next one.